You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 47 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. With me is my partner in crime, Matt Lowe.
Yo.
Jessica Szilagyi has been designated for assignment, which is media talk for she couldn't stand us one more day and needed a day off. and we will miss her, and I assure the listeners, you will miss her too. Because when Matt and I are off on Hog Trail, she's the one that goes, "Hey, the story's over here, stupid."
Right? She lands the plane.
She does. We're two drunk aerobatic pilots just doing loops over Wichita or some shit. And she's like, no, over here, land the damn plane.
Yep. Oh. So how's your week been?
My week has been pretty good. I got a Superman shot in my knee, which is cortisone.
Yeah.
That's the same stuff they shoot football players with at like halftime. They have them go out and destroy their joints because they can't feel it.
Right. You see, I've always heard that, like, once you traveled down the road of getting cortisone shots, that like there was no coming back from that.
That's great.
So I've never even endeavored upon doing it, mostly because at this point my knees are not giving me any trouble, not a whole lot of trouble anyway.
Well, there's a certain dance that you do with insurance, and you have to go through certain steps to get to certain steps.
Right.
And I'm very lucky. The orthopedic surgeon that I've picked up for my knee is a cut last person, which is rare in her field. She really doesn't want to do a reconstruction, and I'm way too young for a replacement. So she is a cut last person, which I really appreciate.
Right.
And I'll tie this into something that we've talked before about on the podcast. I'm sitting in the room, and the computers are down, so we're talking drugs because that's what I do. And I was telling the story about the codeine, and that the pharmacist is giving something to deactivate the codeine. She rolls her eyes. I said, "Look, let me tell you something about me. I don't throw away narcotics." And she goes, "Nor should you. They don't expire." She goes, "I still have Percocet from my C-section 2 years ago." And, I kind of referenced what Jessica's like, kidney stones don't come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're like babies. They come at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right. When there is no access to a doctor, you need pain relief. And I don't care how good a friend you are. You call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, "You've got kidney stones." I'll be like, drink a 12-pack of beer and flush that crap out because I'm going back to bed. But it was interesting having a candid conversation with somebody, even in the medical field, and someone who prescribes opiates. A surgeon saying, "Look, if you're a responsible person, there's no reason." An addict doesn't have any dope to save. Right. I think was her point. You don't give an addict dope and they go, "Well, I think I'll put these away for a rainy day." No, they pop them all. Like a responsible person says, "You know what? There's 4 Percocets left in here. I'm going to go ahead and put these away in case I injure myself again, like, say, the day before I go on vacation and fall down the stairs."
Right. I don't know, like the thought of an addict, we keep all of our prescription medications and over-the-counter medications in a safe here in the house. I bought one that fits in the cabinet, and that way, because with all the kids and whatnot, it felt prudent to do that.
Yeah, you have a really high liability. It's not your 7 kids; it's their 7 friends each.
Right.
So you have a lot of traffic in your house. I have none. The dog doesn't have an opposable thumb. So she's not going to get into it. And there's just, I couldn't live the way I do with like my bourbon bar set up and all that stuff if I had kids in and out of my house. It's just, but you took the road of a responsible individual, which, that's exactly what everybody should do, whether it's a lockbox, a true safe like you did, or anything else, is not leaving them in the medicine cabinet where anybody can get it, but the whole idea of going to the police station and turning them in, man, that's like going to a gun buyback just because you're afraid the gun's going to hop out of the drawer, load itself, and murder you in the middle of the night.
Right. I don't know though, man. I just had this mental image of a tweaker, putting meds in a safe for later.
Yeah, I may have DTs in a month. Let me save this.
Oh, God. So my week has been like I've had a lot going on. My oldest kid made Eagle Scout back in November, and there's this whole court of honor ceremony that goes along with that. And when it's an Eagle Scout thing, the parents plan it and pay for it and execute it and all of that. We had that, so as a fairly large event that we catered for all the friends and family that were involved with all of that. And then by the time this one airs, I will be in the Caribbean when this airs. So I've had a lot of last minute, tying up some loose ends at work so that hopefully things don't catch on fire while I'm away.
Tying up loose ends, you mean you've had your feet up on the desk staring out the window going, 3 more days.
Right. Yeah, showing up late to work every morning, drinking beer at lunch, getting ready for vacation. Isn't that what everybody does?
It's sort of like being a short timer in the Army. When you walk past First Sergeant, it says, "How you doing?" You say, 37 days, First Sergeant.
Right.
And you know what? It's one of those things, as a boss, you're just like, let it slide. He's already on island time. Just let it slide.
Right.
Especially when you have a late week extraction. Like, just let it slide. The beauty is you will not be accessible by cell phone.
Nope, I won't.
Now, I used to leave the country every year so my cell phone wouldn't work. And that's been ruined, especially in the Americas, in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, just about any city you go to, and the same thing if you're getting off the boat or something like that, but any city you go to has got decent cell service, and you make arrangements with your carrier to have an international plan, and it's just like walking down the streets of Atlanta.
Right. You know what the problem is, though, man? Like, with the plan that we're on, if I wanted to activate the international stuff for it, it was ridiculous. It was like if it was just $50, that'd be fine. But it was like $50, and then phone calls were kind of included in that, but text messages were like 82 cents a piece or something ridiculous.
Well, it's the same thing on mine, but it was $5 a day, $10 a day, whatever it was. It was, as a business owner, it was good enough. But yeah, you turn off cellular data, and you only get your text messages when you get into Wi-Fi. And there's plenty of Wi-Fi, I won't say everywhere in the world, but any place that's full of Americans has Wi-Fi.
Right. I mean, yeah, we're going to, Grand Turk and Dominican and Curacao and Aruba. Yeah, we'll have one.
You going to Grand Turk on a boat?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you my Grand Turk story. And this may get edited because it's... All right. No, actually, no, it probably won't get edited because I can clean it up. There is a Margaritaville there where the cruise
right
boat
off
shut.
the pier.
Right. So we went snorkeling and put my wife in the water with some sharks. Nurse sharks. They're not going to hurt you. But, it's an experience for her where they're feeding the nurse sharks. So we come in and we've got a couple hours before getting back on the boat. And so we go over to Jimmy Buffett's place and have a couple cocktails. And we're doing what we like to do, which is stand at a swim-up bar, having a couple cocktails, and they're having a twerking contest. And an American white girl won the twerking contest.
Really?
She was getting down, brother. And I mean, in a clinging bikini bottom, she was giving a biology lesson. I thought I owed her money. And she won. And she gets back in the pool and she swims up to her dude. I'm like, hey, good for you, bro. And then her 6-year-old daughter swims up and goes, you dance so good, mommy. And responsible Dave kicked in. What the hell is wrong with you?
Right?
Twerking in front of your daughter.
Wow.
Because, somewhere there's a divorced dad that doesn't know this happened.
Right.
Calling back to last week. And that was the moment I knew I was old. Because, 20-year-old Dave wouldn't have cared if she had a litter of kids.
Right.
Responsible Dave kicked in. I was like, what the hell's the matter with you?
Right? Hey, hooker.
Why would you...
Straighten up while she's around.
Yeah, why would you turn tricks in front of your kid? It's like The Blind Side. Just close your eyes and the bad thing happens. It was. So that is the Grand Turk. So when you're there for the twerking contest and Martha hops up there or you hop up there, make sure that none of your kids are around.
Yeah, no, it's just us. We're leaving the kids with the in-laws.
Oh, number 8's coming.
Right? I hope so.
You would. You really would. You want a whole baseball team.
I do. No, I want at least one more. I don't know why.
Because you don't have to have it.
Yeah, right. My wife. Nothing else is coming out of me. All right.
Well, for every in, there's an out.
Right?
Especially around Matt Lowe. Ladies, careful. If you fall asleep on the bus next to Matt Lowe, you may wake up pregnant.
Right? You turn this podcast up too loud.
Make sure to have your earbuds in the right place. If you use your speakers, your whole neighborhood may be pregnant. Oh, man. Speaking of last week, we do have a follow-up. Liz Warren says she is not a woman of color. So she must have listened.
Shit.
She must be a listener.
Right?
Because those are the exact words I used. So, Liz, we've heard you. And just go ahead and get me a beer.
Right. I'll take one too.
No, man. It's like she also got a twist top beer, like a Bud Light. And somebody had to be there, with Jessica with holding the baseball, showing her how to twist the top off of a beer.
Really?
Oh, I'm sure you know damn well Liz Warren's not drinking Bud Lights. It's going to be some IPA or some craft beer with pumpkin spice and unicorn farts or something like that in there. She is not drinking an $8 12-pack beer. I say that because I'm a snob too, and I'm not drinking an $8 12-pack beer.
I'm weird about my beer, man. I go back and forth. and it's interesting because I do like an IPA, and I like a lot of like microbrew IPAs, especially when you start getting into double and triple IPAs that utilize some of the citrus hops and whatnot. But I also I'll drink a Bud Light. So,
do I sound like Dan Bowles? Is this your beer podcast?
no, I'm just saying that I'm just saying that I go back and forth, man. That when I want something good, I'll drink an IPA or even a stout, but not a stout like Guinness. Ugh. But,
well, there's a difference. It's what I call redneck Gatorade, which is sitting by the pool. You cannot drink a stack of IPA sitting by the pool.
No, it's terrible.
No, it not only is will you get so far messed up because of the higher alcohol content, for whatever reason, the hops will give you just a horrible dry mouth hangover.
Right.
So, yeah, redneck Gatorade, which is what I call cutting the grass.
Miller Lite, Bud Light,
yep.
Coors Light.
Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, and Mick Ultra is redneck Gatorade. That's absolutely appropriate for working outside. You're sweating. You're getting more water than you are alcohol.
Mick Ultra. That's fat girl beer.
It is. You know what? Just unless you're on a commercial, you don't ever see a fit person's drinking that.
Right.
It's always some, and I'm pointing the finger at me, listeners, 300-pounder, thinking I'm doing something healthy. I'll get me a salad with extra blue cheese dressing, please, and a Mick Ultra. I'll have the apple pie with the Diet Coke, please. But yeah, this is the danger of not having Jessica on the program as we go down rabbit holes.
Yep, we were talking about Elizabeth Warren. And
and then we started talking about beers.
Fat girls and Mick Ultra.
So anyway, she came off with some capitulation saying she does not have tribal citizenship and how sorry she is and how, like everybody else in Oklahoma, she heard how she had tribal affiliation. Of course, I don't think there was ever an apology for taking a minority scholarship away from a minority.
Right. Man, as far as being out in Oklahoma, I don't know why it never dawned on me that the Indian population in Oklahoma is as huge as it is until we drove through Oklahoma on our way to Elkhart, Colorado last year. And the number of casinos in that place was astounding.
Jackson.
The whole state. Like, they were everywhere. There would be a little mini casino attached to a gas station.
What do you mean by they, Matthew?
What do you mean?
just being a liberal. Just being a liberal. What do you mean by they, Matthew?
Well, in this instance, I meant they as in Indians. Feathers, not dots.
All right, Joe. Uncle Joe Biden over here. There are lots of casinos, not a single Dunkin' Donuts.
Or a Dairy Queen.
I was sticking straight. I was trying to stick to the Joe Biden quote, and you had to go there. No, the Trail of Tears, man, Jackson. It's the same reason that, Jackson was not a very nice guy. Old Hickory was not a very nice guy. So that's why Oklahoma was basically a throwaway state.
Right.
I don't mean the musical. The musical was perfectly lovely, but it was a throwaway state. It's like, what's the worst piece of land we have? Oh, you guys can have Oklahoma. Here's your reservation.
Right.
So that of course that's why. It's also the Trail of Tears is also why the DNA of Native Americans is so lacking. So you could have more Native American DNA in your past than you know. But so many died that there's no trace record of it.
Right.
There's also a general distrust of the white man, for good reason, that you don't let the U.S. government, and when I say the white man, I really do mean the U.S. government coming in and taking blood.
Right. No, man, that was the one thing, like, when I lived out in Montana, the Indian population out there, they were always, like, they weren't, especially if they lived on one of the reservations, they really did keep to themselves, and they did not want anything to, like, they were seriously still irritated about it. And, I kind of legitimately so, but...
Well, part of it is you lost. But the other is what happened after you lost and how you were treated. Look at the Tuskegee experiments. I can't remember what vaccination they told the folks in Tuskegee what they were getting as U.S. government. They were experimenting on them.
Right.
On the population. Smallpox blankets, things like that. So and I'm not saying we live in a bad country. I'm saying there are spots in our country that aren't awesome, and Jackson is one of them. Jackson was also a war hero and did a lot of really, he got the term, old hickory for a reason. But when he got in the White House, it turns out he wasn't as awesome as people would think, which happens often in our history when people achieve power.
Right.
It repeats itself over and over and over. And I'm not talking about Trump specifically. I'm talking about any of them that get to that level of power and get encapsulated and say, what do we do with all these Cherokee that fought beside you and helped you? He's like, we'll take them, march them all the way to the furthest spot we can think of and kick them there. Oh man, we are such on a damn hog trail away from Liz Warren. And this is what happens. Jessica, I hope you're listening, because I blame you.
Me too.
Pound you too?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, here's a story that is made for you. Grindr harassment suit could change the legal landscape for tech and free speech. A man filed lawsuit against Grindr. All right. Grindr is what's the swipe right thing for straight folks?
Tinder?
Tinder. You could tell that, like, you're talking about like two like really old married guys are discussing like stuff that didn't exist when we were single. So it is the Tinder that is designed for...
Thank God it didn't exist.
Oh God, I'd have died of dehydration.
Yep.
I'd be dead. I really would. I'd be dead. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, the fact that it was work kept me alive. It also kept a drive in me. Like, there was a reason to go to work. If I could mail order that stuff and have it delivered to the house with no expectations of me not being a scumbag.
Right.
I'd have traded my conservative values, gotten on the dole, gotten some food stamps, and gotten a computer.
Right.
But I digress. So, all right. So, to bring this story to an ant's ass, a couple dudes met each other on Grindr. They had a relationship. Turns out one's crazy. Now, you can swap this out for Tinder or any other relationship. Turns out one's crazy. I'm going to guess he was the girl in the relationship. They break up. And the one is harassing the other, creating false profiles, with his picture and putting it out there and telling people to meet him at his house, doing all sorts of crazy stuff that chicks do. And harassing him. Now, despite my jocular description of the situation, here comes the kicker. They're suing the website that these messages are carried on. Instead of handling their business between the two of them, they're saying, well, Tinder is obviously at fault. Now, Matt, is this no different than suing AT&T for someone sending, 1,800 text messages to her ex?
No. Oh, so that one was vastly underreported. I don't know if you saw an update to that. When that story first came out, it was 18,000 text messages or something like that. They've, I guess, in the course of that trial and whatnot, they've figured out it is in excess of 159,000.
Maybe he's just not that into you.
Right.
No, look, we can enjoy talking about the mental illness aspect of this, but legally speaking, what legal burden does the utility, and I'm going to, I understand putting air quotes around utility being Grindr, Facebook, Tinder, or anything else, shoulder when you've got a lunatic sending multiple messages?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is that in 2017, this dude actually got a temporary restraining order against Grindr that required the company to disable the impersonating profiles. And it looks like they didn't.
But what's the onerous on that?
Well, I mean, at some point, the company, once they've been made aware, right, that that there are some, like, I think it's on this Matthew Herrick guy. It would, or on me even. Say if somebody closed my profile, it's on me to go to Facebook and say, hey, this isn't real, it's impersonating me. At that point, Facebook should do their thing and figure out that it's not me, right? And then they should delete that and disable that particular thing. I think that there is some responsibility once these providers have been made aware to do that.
But at what point are you playing whack-a-mole because they're changing IP addresses? You can't, obviously, look, my name's Dave Roberts. There are lots of Dave Roberts.
Well, there's 13 Matt Lowe's just in the state of Georgia.
So you're playing whack-a-mole here with the IP addresses. As soon as you shut one down, another one pops up. Ask anybody who's tried to run a website with the Outdoors Trader, a site that we're both members of. When they get somebody who decides that he's just going to be a troll, and I'm not even. When I say troll, I mean like Matt Lowe times 10. But that guy decides he's going to be a troll. He keeps popping back up with different screen names, different IP addresses, and it's on a small website. And I say relatively small. Sorry, Thomas. With the ODT, is imagine having a Facebook. You're trying to play whack-a-mole with different IP addresses popping up, creating different profiles.
Right, which is why I say it's on this Matthew guy at first, or whoever it is, to make them aware.
Now, I had no idea that particularly is the case. Now, if the guys use the same IP address over and over and over, well, you certainly...
Even if it's not IP address related, it's still a profile that's being made. And so you go and you say, hey, this profile is pretending to be me.
Right, if he's actually still active on there. if the restraining order went in and said, hey, listen, you can't have any Matthew Lowe profiles that are pretending to be me, and then he walks away and leaves the onerous on the website.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. I think that probably, that what would happen is you would go and say, I have identified these 4 or 5 profiles that are imposters of me, and then they're told to disable them. And then if they don't, then that's on them.
Well, look, and here's one of the... I've never done this, and I'm being God honest serious. Never done this because I wouldn't. But it's one of the jokes that we've told internally with somebody who's being a turd, is to go out on Craigslist personals and say, power bottom looking for surprise interaction. Here's my address. Please don't call first. After 2 a.m., please. And putting that out there, just going to a Kinko's or something, paying cash, getting their computer, and throwing that profile out there, and just laughing to yourself to sleep.
Power bottom. Oh, I bet that gets edited.
It's a thing.
I'm sure it is.
It's a thing. And you know where I learned that? Watching American Dad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Seth is funny, dude. He's funny. If you haven't watched the Orville and stuff, and I don't know if you're a sci-fi geek, but the Orville is great. But yeah, his American Dad stuff is pretty good too. And A Million Ways to Die in the West was really, really, really good. As it turns out, Liam Neeson's the bad guy in it. I mean, he pulls some really quality stars.
Right.
And not a single girl was sold for sex, and Liam Neeson was in the movie. Speaking of, Cobb County District Attorney wants to use a nuisance law to combat sex trafficking at a specific hotel.
Is it actually sex trafficking?
I had the same question.
Well, here's the thing. I guess... And what I don't want to see happen here is, whenever you use the term sex trafficking or human trafficking, right? I instantly envision scenarios of, young girls or whatever doing things or being made to do things against their will.
Taken.
Yeah. Right, not to that extent, because I don't think it really happens like that. But what I don't want to see is sex trafficking. Get legitimate prostitution tangled up with it.
Legitimate prostitution.
Yeah,
No, I get it. I just love the phrase.
Right.
You and I are see eye to eye on that one. And I have to wonder if this isn't a DA that's going to take advantage of the Super Bowl coming to Atlanta to make his name.
Right?
Because look,
it's such a strange area, man.
Kemp was out there inflating numbers, and we talked about it at the tail end of last episode. I mean, it's just for no good damn reason, just because it was on my mind with closing thoughts. But that 3,600 trafficked minors a year. I mean, and I know I'm getting into the weeds of one death is a tragedy, 1,000 is a statistic.
Right.
There's just no way that 10 girls or children a day are being stolen from loving homes and sold into sex slavery. The numbers just don't support it. And
in Atlanta?
In Georgia.
Yeah, no. Look, we'd know about it.
Right. Every milk carton would have kids on it.
You'd have look, man. This is the South. I know how I would react. They would make a movie about it that made Taken look like a Disney flick.
Oh yeah.
If there was that many around, this state would be slap full of pissed off dads.
Well, no, the streets would run red with blood. Yeah, you're right. Is if not only that, we'd hang the governor.
Oh, right.
I mean, right there in Buckhead, string his ass up for doing nothing, for going after pot dealers, and now these guys are stealing 10 children a day. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, and when we talk about minors, I mentioned it last week. And I know it's awful all the way around, but the girl who is 16 or 17 years old that picked up a dope habit, dropped out of school, and is using her one commodity to make money to score more dope is in a different class than a 6-year-old that's stolen from her warm bed and sold into slavery.
Right.
It's
vastly different.
But that's the picture we have. We have the picture of a loved young girl being snatched off the street and sold into slavery. Right. And outside of Boko Haram, that's not what we see. That's not what's happening. It just can't be happening. Like you said, we would all have our how many gun owners we have in the state. Every gun would be on the street fighting the people who did this.
Right. And you'd know when they were found. At least you'd know if I found one. Right.
You'd find what's left.
Right. They'd be like, look at that.
I talked about posse comitatus and the gun discussion, but you want to see an angry posse?
Right.
And let me tell you something. You could not find 12 jurors to convict anyone who killed a piece of garbage that was selling children in slavery.
Look here. I'm telling you, if it happened to one of my kids, the news helicopter could have footage of me dancing over the lifeless body, wearing their face as a mask, and I wouldn't get convicted.
No, and I don't know any prosecutor that even wants that case.
Right.
The worst they would do is try to throw it at you, going, "Hey, we could charge you." Like, go ahead. Have to hire what's her name, and you know who she is that got the jury nullification on the weed case.
Oh, Catherine Bernard.
Yes, Catherine Bernard. I wasn't privileged to be in on the interview you guys had with her. But you get her in there, like, did you kill him? Yeah. It's you're going old.
Sure did.
Going old Western on that one. Some men just need to be killed.
Right.
And you could not. I mean, the worst you would find is a hung jury.
Right.
There's no way you could find 12 people to say, yeah, that guy didn't deserve to die. We shouldn't have killed him. So, in that vein, I have a hard time believing that true sex trafficking is going on. Now, maybe I watch too much TV. Do professional providers get traded from one manager to another, sort of like they do in sports? Probably. But this is, it's a culmination of poor choices. I'm not saying these girls deserve to be thrown into this. It's just, I'm not sure it's what we need to be focusing our actions on. And I certainly don't think that it's what the government should be selling to us as a crisis.
Well, see, here's the other thing too, and I don't want to say I have some experience with this, but
I bet you do.
I've got.
You were young and needed the money,
right? My father retired from Cobb PD, and before he left, he was a high-tech crimes investigator, which basically meant he did computer forensics. So he got many times involved in cases like that. My sister is the crimes against children investigator now, and in listening to them discuss the cases that they're allowed to discuss, meaning things that have been already gone through the court system and whatnot, a large majority of the stuff that they work with, where the kids are being, if the acts are being sold, it's the parents that are selling them. Like it's the crackhead mom that is selling time with her 6-year-old daughter to the various drug dealers or whatnot
to feed her own habit. And that has been my observation, not as somebody not in law enforcement, is when you see these horrible cases when a mother has 4 kids in kennels locked in a dirt floor basement, and you find out that her boyfriend has been abusing the 18-month-old. That has so much more been the case in my anecdotal observation than it is, again, the Taken scenario where it's the Limburg baby. Someone sneaks in at 2 o'clock in the morning, grabs the baby, grabs the child or whatever, and sneaks out with it. It's just the numbers don't support it. If it happened once, certainly in our community, you and I'd be the first ones volunteering, going, "All right,
right." I'll text the sheriff.
Yeah, I was about to say, Sheriff Gullidge, where do you want us and how can we help?
Right.
But that's not what happens. Is we're not hearing about the point A journey on this road to being trafficked. We're only hearing about point W. So since we're not hearing about these kidnappings, this is not what's happening. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that as a moral person, I believe these drug addicts deserve what they get. And especially when it comes to minors who leave home and have drug problems, a lot of times it is a question of a less than ideal home life. Sometimes it's someone being catfished on the internet. Sometimes it's a case of not even being catfished, of this guy saying, "Hey, they don't love you at home once you come with me," and you end up that way. But this whole idea that loved girls, and we've spoken about it before, these stories that would go around Facebook about, "Oh, my little girl was almost totally abducted. These guys were following her around Target." It's like, no, they were looking for pots and pans too. The hyperbole, I really think, is the enemy of solving this problem.
Right. Yeah, and that's a hard thing, though. Like, it's a hard... you and I can have this discussion, but this would be a difficult discussion to have with other people. Because the minute you start questioning things like this, like, people shut down. Like, "Oh, he doesn't care about the 2-year-old that's getting..." That's not the case. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right. Well, look, here's the thing. And I cannot remember the case on this one. And I'm such a horrible person because I can only remember the auto-tune the news of dead giveaway. But the girls that were held for years and years and years, and the guy's giving the interview, and he's talking about this girl who kicked the hole through the door, and she says, "Can you help me?" And he got the door open, and this is a quote. This is not Dave. "When you see a little white girl run into a black man's arms, you know something was wrong. Dead giveaway." He's talking about they had barbecues with this guy. They had the auto-tune the news on it is hilarious because I have a real gallows sense of humor anyway. But those girls weren't being held for sex trafficking; they were being held for his personal use. Right. And yes, both are awful. but nothing that they're doing to this hotel owner who's trying to make a living is going to stop a sick person who wants to lock Elizabeth Smart up in his basement from doing it. That's not these two things aren't what's happening. So when we see these cases of the Elizabeth Smarts and forgive me, I don't remember what the poor girls that were rescued. That guy's a hero.
Charles Ramsey.
Yes,
was the name of the black man who said that.
Yeah, and it's a great interview. It's an even better auto-tune than news. But he's a hero because he could have turned and walked away.
Amanda Berry.
So there's nothing that we're doing, I say we, Cobb County's doing to that Masters Inn on Windy Hill that is going to stop another Amanda Berry. But what it will do is take a low-income hotel, close it, and get it away from the new Brave Stadium so something else more expensive can pop up.
Right.
And I hate
where the sex trafficking that they're talking about will still happen. It will just happen with higher end.
Oh yeah, if I'm gonna rent a hooker, it's gonna cost more than $5.
Right.
The same reason I was suspicious when I travel out of the country of a $1 hamburger. Oh God, Dave, you just compared hookers to meat. And what I mean is if I was in the market, I would pay for someone with a little more hubris in what she was offering than a $5 crack whore. That's just me. So, and as you're seeing with the professionals around your office, when high dollar comes in, high quality comes in, because the Super Bowl's coming.
Right.
The daytime strippers are being moved off to Topeka or something, and the more quality stuff is coming in.
Right, yeah. I mean, listeners have heard me talk about it before. I work on Fulton Industrial Boulevard or right off of it. And it's kind of a normal occurrence for me to see, like, the kind of hookers that throw up blood on the sidewalk. And I'm seeing less and less of them and more that warrant a second look. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, and I'll tell you, I lived over next to Sugarloaf Plantation, whatever the country club is over there in Gwinnett, when the Madam was busted.
Right.
I lived in an apartment. I was not nor am I now, in the financial position to go and seek out a $10,000 a throw young lady. But that's what was going on at Sugarloaf. And Sugarloaf is where Jeff Foxworthy at the time lived. No, he was not a client. Same thing with John Smoltz, and I would highly doubt John Smoltz was a client. But anyway, this woman needed income, and she ran really high-priced call girls. So you're right. You don't solve the problem. You change the clientele when you go from a $30 a night no-tell motel to a $600 a night Mandarin Oriental.
Right.
You still have the hookers. They just cost more.
Right.
And I don't know, man. My personal view as far as curing sex trafficking is the same cure I have to everything else. Get the government out of it. There's no reason for a girl to be pimped if there's no risk.
Right.
A pimp is a manager that's also a protector. He'll go get you out of jail. But you owe him a cut, whatever it is. If there's no threat to going to jail, if you can screen your clients, I say no pimps. I don't know. I mean, Dennis Hoff was a pimp, and we've talked about him before.
Right.
But he really was more of a salon owner that takes a piece of the action more than he is a pimp who will beat you down for not being on the streets.
Right.
the Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre version of a pimp. So all of you that like to see him and go, oh, what nice guys, those guys were women-beating, women-oppressing pimps. And if you want to use the term, sex trafficking pimps. So that's totally off the tangent too. I know, Matt, but that makes me so angry when I see him on commercials about how to treat women. I was like, "Are you friggin' kidding me?"
Right.
Always with an open hand, never with a closed fist. Is that your idea of kindness?
Right.
The state of California is having a hard time selling weed.
Yeah, you want to know why?
Drum roll, please. Survey says taxation is theft.
That's how I always laugh when people are like, legalize it so we can tax it. I'm like, or not. Let's just legalize it. Like, why do we have to follow everything up with more taxes? I don't know. It always irritates me.
Well, and I'm going to take their defense on it. It is the human nature of a take one, give one. Is let me give you a benefit to legalizing it. Is, hey, you legalize it, you'll get more money. Instead of the libertarian stance is, it should have never been illegal in the first place. You're restoring freedom.
Right.
And I know that's where you are on that. But what's funny is Colorado doesn't have this problem.
No, Colorado has its own set of issues.
It does. But California, being the tax capital of the United States, are the ones going, why won't this icky sticky sell?
Right.
It's quality product.
Yep.
Who won't pay $600 for a quarter bag?
Right. And you can go through and look at each state. I think, what is it? There's 10 now that are legal for recreational, and kind of look at each state and the way that they've approached it, and figure out what's not working. It's kind of like, obviously California has taxed it to damn death. Colorado's problem was they kind of relegated dispensaries to the smaller cities, right? So you gotta travel outside to a more suburb type area to get it. So,
and you still did not bring many gummy bears back,
right? But so now you've got a lot of growers in Denver, and they're growing their own.
Well, I know this from a business standpoint. You cannot rent warehouse space in Colorado. As soon as it comes up to be available, it's rented.
Really?
Yeah, you can't grow outside in Colorado. You have no growing season.
Right.
I'm worried, if we take this back to Georgia, is the study committee is going to come back. And they're going to say, yes, we're going to throw a number out there, 10 licenses to grow marijuana, and here's the list of conditions. A big one's going to be security and accounting and everything else. They obviously don't want you running a half medical, half recreational operation, because they're still going to leave recreational being illegal.
Right.
That they're going to make the operation of cultivating in-state marijuana so expensive that these parents who have been, again, I'm going to throw a number. I have no idea what these folks are spending for the medical stuff. I have no idea. I'm going to throw a number out. It's going to be $100 a week on medical low-dose THC medical marijuana oil. That and they're bringing it from other states, that somehow it will be more expensive at $100 a week to traffic it in and take the risk of running a felony than it is to pay $1,000 a week, because Georgia has so many regulations on how the business can be run, who can open a business, and the taxes they place upon it. And that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Am I comparing Georgia to California? Absolutely not. Our beaches suck. But we certainly have the ability, with the Puritan nature of our legislature, to make it so difficult, so expensive, and then limit the growth opportunity for these companies that get involved in it, get permitted to do it, that there's nowhere to go. That they have to make the product so expensive that these folks that need medical marijuana are just going to go to Florida and get it.
Well, that really where they'll end up getting it is North Carolina.
Or North Carolina or South Carolina or anywhere else.
Well, North Carolina right now, their state legislature is looking at a bill, and it's interesting the way that they're doing it. And I know this isn't in the outline. I just happen to know about it. They're not looking at a statewide legalization. What they're doing is putting up a bill that allows each county the ability to choose whether it wants to legalize or not.
And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it's almost the way it is with booze here.
Well, no, I was about to say it's exactly the way it is with booze here. Is every municipality has their own authority. And when I say municipality, the county and the city have the same authority, which in Paulding County, we don't have any liquor stores in the county. We have them in the cities.
Right.
Which the population growth has been outside of the cities, so which means that all the soccer moms, I say that because whatever, all the soccer moms are going outside of the county, taking their tax dollars elsewhere to go pick up their bottle of wine.
Right.
Well, pick up the bottle of vodka. They can get the wine at Publix. Not that I know that, right? So that's exactly the way it is. And I really don't like that, but I much prefer being able to grab my local person on a collar and go, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are we letting the tax dollars go elsewhere?
Right.
Then be able to grab my one representative, go grab, Joseph Gullett and go, hey, we want this. And he's like, so do I, but you got to convince the other people too.
Right.
Damn it. And that's exactly what happened. What happens is, when I talk to my congressman, he's on my team, but he's one of how many? 420?
435.
435. So, like with the Hearing Protection Act, I co-sponsored it. I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you. Now, if you can get everybody else to go with me, it'd be great.
Right.
But when your local people are 1 out of 5, and 20% of them really, really, really want your vote, you have some influence. Plus, if you throw a little money in with that, you get a little more influence. And at the local, the closer you get to local, the less money it takes.
That's true.
It is. I was talking to somebody who, speaking of liquor, owned a liquor store in Hiram, which is a city in our county, and he lived over in unincorporated Paulding County, and he was cursing about how no one in the city council cared what he had to say because he wasn't a voter. And I said, write a check. He looked at me and said, what? Write a check. They'll care. Be a donor. And all of a sudden they'll care.
Right. Did it work for him?
No, he went out of business.
Oh.
No, he never wrote the check. He didn't take my advice. There are other factors. His landlord was going through divorce and some other stuff.
Right.
That there's other factors that went in with that. But my point was the same, which was if you want a voice in politics, you write a check.
Right. You pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, constituent is nice, donor is better. If you're a constituent and you're up at Washington when your congressman's there, he will meet you in the hallway. When you're a donor, you get an hour.
Right.
That's just the way it is. And again, we're getting way off of the California weed thing because that's what. Okay.
Which was that the government managed to F it up.
Right. Okay. Closing thoughts.
Well, we should probably do our disclaimer that these are our opinions and not necessarily those of All on Georgia.
Or Jessica Szilagyi.
Right. It probably wasn't Jessica. In fact, I bet she's going to preview this episode and be like, oh my God. Oh God. No, they said that? No. Oh, be quiet now.
Don't leave them alone again.
Right. Yeah. 67 minutes of recording here. We're going to have 3 usable minutes. The other thing is, and we've gotten very bad at it, is reminding people to subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you want to get a podcast from, we're there. So subscribe to us and give us a good rating, whatever it is, all the way to the right. If it's 5 stars, if whatever the rating system is, pick the most. Send us questions, feedback. Send us private messages on Facebook. You can message the page. You can message me, Jessica, Dave. You can email the show.
Okay, with the PMs. I like the show is great. Some of the stuff that I'm getting is a little out there, and I can't imagine how somebody like Jessica, what Jessica gets.
Right.
I'm old, fat, and ugly.
Right.
like almost everybody can do better than me.
Right. She's tall, thin, blonde, and hot.
So my closing thought, and Matt, yours is very thoughtful and good for the show and out of
that wasn't my closing thought.
And out of character. But yes, please do like the show. Share the show with your friends. I mean, if you have a friend with a warped sense of humor, and if you know people who are like, sure, I'm pissed at what the state's doing, but I never know until it hits the news. Listen to the podcast. As this show drops, the General Assembly is going into session. And as I will make this show as jocular as I can, but we will also lampoon the lawmakers that say ridiculous stuff, that try to put ridiculous things through. And friends or foes. And I've said before, I think our job here is calling balls and strikes. We're umpires. We're acting as the press. So friends or not, and I may like what somebody does on one issue, and then they go and they vote on an issue that I think is ridiculous. Or you have a Renee Unterman that is taking over as the loser of the week candidate in perpetuity.
Right.
That we're just going to hammer her and leave her red-faced and as much as we can and make fun of her. And if you really love Renee, hey, send us emails, send me PMs, tell me what an idiot I am. If you hate Renee, tell me I'm a genius. If you're Renee, piss off.
Email Jessica at All on Georgia.
Email Jessica at All on Georgia with all your comments, Renee. That can get edited out. I don't.
No, Matt, it stays. It stays.
It stays.
My closing thought is I won't be here for next week's show. I'll be in the Caribbean. So y'all have fun.
You know, I can say a lot of 4-letter words, but I've been on like 2 vacations since you brought me in.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, but you did record the show from work.
I did record the show, and I was willing to record the show from the hospital bed.
Right.
Only because I thought you guys would find somebody better. Okay, what the listeners have just heard is very much an eavesdropping. It's what the NSA hears when they listen to Matt and I talk on the phone.
Right. Well, the slightly less cursing.
A lot of less cursing. And the stories are a lot cleaner. But it is non sequitur to non sequitur to non sequitur. I mean, we can start with it's raining and end up with, hookers on Memorial Drive. It's a connection of rat hole to rat hole to rat hole and hog trail to hog trail that if you're not paying attention, you wonder how the hell did we get here? And sometimes so do we.
Every day.
So this is what happens when you don't have the air traffic controller
to land the plane.
To land the damn plane. Jessica will be back next week. Matt will not. So I will be on my best behavior so I don't piss Jessica off. We'll call her the matriarch of the show.
Right.
Matt, thank you very much. Have a great vacation. Come back relaxed, and if you want to sell that baby number 8, we may be buyers.
All right.
So for Matt Lowe, the Jessica Salaji who's on assignment, I'm Dave Roberts. I hope you enjoyed number 47. Have a great week.
Later.